What I'm about to share with you isn't just powerful, it's borderline dangerous. And before you go any further, I need you to stop and ask yourself something. Are you truly ready to understand why certain men become emotionally irreplaceable to women, while other men, equally attractive, equally successful, get forgotten the moment they walk out the door? Because what separates those two men has nothing to do with looks, nothing to do with money, and it has absolutely nothing to do with the words they say. It has everything to do with how they make a woman feel at the psychological level. By the end of this video, you're going to understand the hidden emotional architecture that drives female attraction, and more importantly, you're going to know exactly how to position yourself as the one man she simply cannot get off her mind. Stay with me, because the thing I'm about to reveal in the second half of this video is the part most men never figure out, even after years of trying. And once you see it, you won't be able to unsee it. Let's get into it. Why most men never get chosen. Here's the hard truth nobody wants to say out loud. Most men are replaceable. Not because they're bad people. Not because they don't try. But because everything they do, every gift, every compliment, every attempt to impress, is doing the exact opposite of what they think it's doing. Think about it. When a man showers a woman with attention, gifts, and constant validation, what is he actually communicating? He's communicating, I am available. I am easy. I am not scarce. And human psychology, not just female psychology but human psychology, places the highest value on what is rare and difficult to obtain. This is called the scarcity principle, and it is one of the most powerful forces governing human behavior. What most men are doing without realizing it is making themselves seem like something she can have whenever she wants. And here's the cruel irony. When she feels like she can have you whenever she wants, she stops wanting you. Attraction doesn't work like gratitude. Giving more doesn't earn you more desire. In fact, the research consistently shows the opposite. The more effortlessly available you are, the faster attraction fades. So if the goal isn't to give her more, what is the goal? The goal is to become something she needs, not just wants. And that distinction right there? That's the entire game. Before we proceed, if you are finding this valuable, kindly like the video and subscribe for more real dating and relationships insights. Let's continue. The difference between wanting and needing, and why it changes everything. Here's a question I want you to really sit with. What's the difference between a woman wanting you and a woman needing you? Most men would say wanting is enough. And they'd be wrong. Wanting is a preference. Wanting is a Sunday morning feeling, pleasant, easy, replaceable. She wants a nice brunch. She wants a new bag. She wants a weekend trip. And the moment something slightly better or more convenient comes along, that want gets redirected without a second thought. But needing? Needing is completely different. Needing is a compulsion. Needing is what happens when something becomes wired into your emotional system so deeply that its absence creates genuine discomfort. You don't choose to need something. It just happens. And once it does, the lengths a person will go to in order to satisfy that need are extraordinary. Think about it through the lens of Maslow's hierarchy of needs. At the base of that pyramid are survival needs: food, water, shelter. People don't casually replace those things. They pursue them relentlessly because without them, something fundamental is missing. Now, what if you could position yourself not as something she wants, like a luxury, but as something she emotionally needs, like a core psychological requirement for her well-being? That's not manipulation. That's understanding how emotional bonding works at the deepest level. And the men who understand this principle are the ones women describe years later as the one that got away. But here's the part one promised I'd reveal, and I'm going to break it all the way down for you right now. The 4 emotional voids that control female attraction. Every woman, regardless of age, background, or relationship history, carries what I call an emotional void. A deep, underlying hunger that isn't being fully satisfied in her life. And the man who identifies her specific void and positions himself as the primary source of relief for that void becomes psychologically indispensable to her. There are 4 core emotional voids that drive female attraction. Let me walk you through each one. Void 1, the validation void. Women are constantly measured. By society, by social media, by their peers. And the relentless pressure to meet those standards creates an almost bottomless hunger for genuine validation. But here's what most men get completely wrong about this. They think the answer is to give validation constantly, to compliment her endlessly, to tell her she's beautiful every single day, to make her feel good on demand. That approach destroys attraction. Here's why. Psychologists have studied a concept called intermittent reinforcement, the same mechanism that makes slot machines so addictive. The research is clear. Unpredictable rewards create far stronger emotional responses than consistent, predictable ones. When a woman knows she can get your approval anytime she wants, your approval becomes worthless. But when your validation is rare, when it has to be earned, when it arrives unexpectedly, her brain floods with dopamine, and she begins associating that emotional high with you specifically. She doesn't become addicted to the compliment. She becomes addicted to you, the source of it. The takeaway: don't be stingy with genuine appreciation, but don't hand it over freely either. Let her earn it. Let it mean something. When she does something that genuinely impresses you, acknowledge it with full sincerity. When she doesn't, say nothing. That strategic silence will speak louder than any words. Void 2, the excitement void. Let me paint you a picture of what most women's daily lives actually look like. Wake up, check emails, commute, or scroll social media, sleep, repeat. Routine is the slow poison of emotional vitality. And most men walk straight into that routine without realizing it, planning the same dinner dates, having the same conversations, offering the same predictable version of themselves every single time. Here's what those men will never understand. Women don't get addicted to men. They get addicted to emotional experiences. And when you become her source of unpredictable emotional highs, you don't just become attractive, you become irreplaceable. The key word here is unpredictability. Not randomness, not chaos, but deliberate unpredictability that keeps her emotionally engaged. Tease her in a way she doesn't expect. Build tension instead of rushing to resolve it. Show her a side of yourself she hasn't seen before. Create inside jokes that belong only to the two of you. Make plans without explaining them, then let the experience deliver the surprise. The emotional experience of being around you should feel like an adventure. Something she can't get from scrolling her phone, from her girlfriends, or from the 10 other guys sending her predictable messages every day. When you become her most reliable source of genuine excitement, she will find herself thinking about you between the moments when life goes flat, which for most people is most of the time. Void 3, the escape void. This one is the most underestimated of all four, and understanding it will give you an edge that almost no other man has. Modern life is heavy. The weight of expectations, responsibilities, career pressure, family dynamics, social comparison, it never fully goes away. Most people are carrying an invisible burden they rarely get to set down. Now imagine you become the one person in her life who makes her feel like she can breathe. Not by solving her problems. Not by offering advice she didn't ask for. But by creating a space, an emotional environment, where she can be completely herself without judgment, without performance, without pressure. When she's with you, her shoulders drop. Her laugh comes easier. She says things she wouldn't say to anyone else. She feels genuinely light in a way she doesn't get to feel most of the time. That feeling? That emotional relief? It becomes addictive faster than almost anything else. This is why people count down the days to vacations they can barely afford. The destination isn't the point, the escape is the point. And when you become her escape, when she starts to associate your presence with that profound sense of relief, she won't just want to be around you. She will feel incomplete when you're not there. Becoming an emotional escape doesn't require grand gestures. It requires full presence. It requires listening without trying to fix. It requires making her laugh. It requires creating a space where she feels seen, free, and completely at ease. Most men are an additional source of pressure in a woman's life. Be the rare man who is a source of release. Void 4, the challenge void. I saved this one for last because it's the most counterintuitive, and the one that directly contradicts almost everything society tells men to do. Here's the uncomfortable reality: the easier you are to get, the less she wants you. This isn't a woman thing. This is a human thing. We are wired to assign value based on perceived difficulty. The harder something is to obtain, the more our brain categorizes it as valuable. It's evolutionary. It's psychological. And it is absolutely relentless. Most men operate in a constant state of pursuit. Chasing, complimenting, accommodating, apologizing, making themselves available at all hours, bending their schedules and standards to make room for a woman who hasn't yet demonstrated she's worth any of it. And the result is always the same. She feels no tension. She feels no challenge. And without tension, attraction flatlines. The man who triggers genuine attraction is the man who doesn't need her approval. The man who has a life she wants to be invited into, rather than a life he's constructed around her. The man who can walk away and she knows it. The man who has standards she actually has to meet. That's not aloofness. That's not playing games. That's self-possession. And it is the single most attractive quality a man can have, Because it is the rarest. When a woman encounters a man who genuinely doesn't need her validation to feel complete, a man who is fully invested in his own life, his own vision, his own worth, she becomes the one pursuing. Not because you manipulated her, but because you became the most compelling thing in her environment. How to identify her void in under 10 minutes. Now that you know the 4 voids, the question is, how do you figure out which one she's carrying? The answer is simpler than you'd expect. You listen. You watch. You pay attention to the signals she broadcasts constantly, often without realizing it. Does she complain that all the guys she meets are boring, safe, and predictable? She's starving for excitement. Become unpredictable. Does she talk about how overwhelmed she is, how much she has on her plate, how exhausted she is from everyone expecting things from her? She's desperate for escape. Become her relief. Does she fish for compliments, post frequently on social media looking for external validation, talk about feeling unseen or underappreciated? She's hungry for validation. Give it, but make it rare and earned. Does she seem completely unimpressed by the attention she gets, rolling her eyes at men who come on too strong? She craves a challenge. Don't chase. Don't fold. Hold your ground. Most women will tell you exactly which void they're carrying, if you're actually listening instead of just waiting for your turn to speak. Identify it. Then become the man who fills it in a way no one else in her life does. The deeper truth about attraction. Here's what I want you to take away from everything we've covered today. Attraction isn't logical. You can't argue your way into it. You can't buy your way into it. You can't nice guy your way into it. Attraction is an emotional and psychological response, and it follows psychological laws whether anyone acknowledges those laws or not. The man who understands those laws doesn't chase. He doesn't beg. He doesn't need external confirmation that he's worth pursuing. He knows his own value, he invests in himself relentlessly, and he creates an emotional experience around him that women simply cannot find anywhere else. That's the one thing that makes a man truly unforgettable. Not his looks, not his bank account, not the words he says, the emotional experience he creates. Master that and you don't need tricks. You don't need tactics. You become the kind of man that women describe to their friends late at night. The one who made her feel something she couldn't explain, couldn't shake, and couldn't replace. Now, with great self-awareness comes great responsibility. Use what you've learned here with integrity. Because the goal isn't to create obsession. It's to become genuinely, authentically irreplaceable. There's a meaningful difference and you know which side of that line to stand on. If this hit differently than what you expected, drop a comment below and let me know which of the 4 voids you think is the most overlooked. I read every single one. And if you know someone who needs to hear this, someone who's been doing everything right and still getting nowhere, share this with him. It might be the thing that changes everything. I'll see you in the next one.